Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 ways to reverse prediabetes naturally. These are, number 1, getting physically active. Number 2, cutting out all ultra-processed foods and sodas. Number 3, switching to a predominantly plant-based diet. Number 4, decreasing your calorie consumption substantially. And number 5, increasing your natural fasting period. Okay, first, let's talk a little bit about what is exactly prediabetes. Well, it's not actually a specific diagnosis with a medical treatment per se. Rather, I would encourage you to look at it as a zone of risk in your life where you go from having a normal metabolism to being at a higher and higher and higher risk for developing full-on diabetes. And this means that you're heading to trouble, but not yet at the point of no return, which is why we're talking about reversing it. So what is prediabetes? Well, you can think that it's practically the same thing as metabolic syndrome. Now, metabolic syndrome is when somebody has a constellation of these health issues. Number 1, high blood cholesterol, high blood lipids. Number 2, high blood pressure. Number 3, high blood sugars. And by the way, you measure blood sugars with a specific blood test that looks for something called hemoglobin A1C, which your doctor can order. All right, metabolic syndrome, also expanding waistline. So if you think about your body as having a tube, right? So if you cut yourself sideways and turn it on the side, you get a tube. And when you're actually getting extra body fat, it's swelling the tube, stretching the tube, and the waistline around here, it's going to stretch up, all right? Expanding waistline means you're growing more and more visceral fat inside the tube of your body. And this is the kind of fat that when you have too much of it is dangerous because it's inflammatory and harmful. Pretty much interferes with everything from your appetite control to your abilities of your body to control blood sugar and many other hormonal aspects related to health and well-being. All right, so you don't want too much visceral fat. And by the way, metabolic syndrome doesn't just suddenly develop. In fact, it sneaks up on you over the course of months or years. If you have a family history of type 2 diabetes, you're more likely to be at risk for developing metabolic syndrome or prediabetes, but that's not a given. Many people who have parents or other relatives who have diabetes have dodged getting it, and we're going to talk about what you can actually do to avoid it. But if you do develop prediabetes, the good news is that it can be reversed. That's right. Prediabetes is just one of those health conditions that if you let it go and watch it get worse, it will develop into full-blown diabetes, one of those chronic diseases that nobody wants to get. And even if you develop type 2 diabetes, it is still possible to reverse it, but you need to understand how to do this, okay? So let's talk about disease reversal and how it used to be thought to be impossible, but we're discovering more and more that we can actually reverse diseases. Let me give you a couple of examples. Cancer being, to me, one of the most dramatic examples. When I went to medical school, I was taught that, if you diagnose cancer late in the game, where it's already spread, pretty much it's going to be game over for the most part. And the treatments that are given might work for a little while, but unlikely to work for a long time. And that's chemotherapy, which has terrible side effects, very severe side effects for the benefit that it actually can generate. But ultimately, the cancer is going to spread and it's going to win the battle. Well, we're now discovering that you can reverse cancer by arming the body's immune system using a cancer treatment called immunotherapy. Now, immunotherapy is one of the most natural treatments in the world because it's not chemo, it doesn't kill the cancer cells directly. What it does is it prompts your body, it jacks up your body's own immune system so that your own immune system can go after the cancer. And in fact, there are many patients who have advanced cancers who get onto immunotherapy, and if they are a responder, and that's an area of research I'm working on, how do you make people better responders? If they respond to immunotherapy, literally, the immunotherapy can arm their immune system to wipe out, scrub out all cancer. So my own mother actually had endometrial cancer, became stage 4, and she had immunotherapy, and she went from stage 4 to stage 0. And 10 years later, she is perfectly healthy without any sign of cancer, never had chemotherapy. So the impossible is becoming possible, and we're able to do things that we never thought we could do. So that's an example of disease reversal. Here's another example of disease reversal, which is heart disease, right? We used to think, and I was taught this in medical school, that if you had coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis, narrowing of the blood vessels feeding everywhere, but feeding your heart and your brain, that eventually you're actually going to wind up continuing to build up that clogging of the arteries until the blood flow is so poor that you're going to wind up actually having a heart attack or a stroke or some other catastrophic event, right? And so that's when you have to break out the roto-rooters and open up and put a stent in, or maybe do bypass surgery, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now we know that it's possible to reverse heart disease using diet and lifestyle. And this was the pioneering work of my friend and colleague, Dr. Dean Ornish, who actually showed that even if people have very, very narrowed blood vessels, that if they embark on a intensive lifestyle regimen with good diet and exercise and stress modification, that you can actually reverse, you can actually improve the blood flow without the need for a cardiology intervention, right? By an interventional cardiology, by putting in a stent or a balloon. That's quite amazing. We're also realizing that you can reverse Alzheimer's disease. A recent clinical study that Dean Ornish also performed at the Preventative Medical Research Institute involved 51 patients with cognitive disorder and Alzheimer's, and it showed that you can actually reverse the degree of cognitive deficit and slow the progression of it using intensive diet and lifestyle change. In fact, the same diet and lifestyle changes pretty much that are beneficial for heart disease as well. Now, more researches need to be done for all of these conditions, but we know for sure that it's possible to prevent type 2 diabetes by reversing pre-diabetes. All right, so let's get into it. Here are 5 ways to reverse pre-diabetes. Again, step 1, get physically active. Step 2, cut out all your ultra-processed foods and sodas. Step 3, switch to a predominantly plant-based diet. Step 4, decrease your caloric consumption substantially. Number 5, increase your natural fasting period. So I want to explain all of these, and let's dive in. Are you ready? Okay, so the goal is to reverse the problems of metabolic syndrome and to tip your metabolism back into its normal zone. Now, in prediabetes, you have insulin resistance, which means that your body is unable to process blood glucose, which is what insulin's role is. So if you're resistant to insulin, your blood glucose is going to go up and your blood glucose is going to run high, all right? And high blood glucose is dangerous for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that your body is going to try to produce more insulin to make it draw that sugar in. But again, because your body's insensitive to it, it's time to create more insulin. So this is actually a vicious circle of actually more and more insulin, but less and less effectiveness in drawing blood sugar in. So what can you do to regain insulin sensitivity? All right, that's a very, very important thing. Now, obviously, eating less sugar, less candies, cakes, sweets, pastas, carbs, eating less of that stuff is going to be helpful, but that's only one thing. You have to reboot your body's sensitivity to insulin. And type 2 diabetes is basically a state where your body can make insulin, but it doesn't respond to it. So your blood sugar goes up, 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 and you're not storing that energy. Even though it's in your body, it's in your bloodstream, you can't store it into your muscles and you can't store it into your fat. Now, remember, high blood sugar is dangerous and it sets you up for everything from cataracts to heart disease to kidney failure, even to dementia, we think. So you have to reverse this if you want your health back. This is one of the reasons to actually try to reverse prediabetes. All right, the first thing you do is to get physically active. This is one of the most important steps. Now, many of us actually do regularly exercise, but a lot of us don't get enough exercise. And let me tell you why this works to reverse prediabetes. Number 1, exercising been shown to help your body regain insulin sensitivity. All right. Now your insulin's working. Now your glucose is being drawn into your muscles. All right. Not only is your metabolism actually right sizing, but you're needing to make less and less insulin. All right. And what that does, it puts less burden on your pancreas. It actually creates less insulin-like growth factor, which can actually trigger dangerous processes, including cancer. And the specific kind of exercise you want to do to reverse prediabetes is aerobic exercise, where you get your heart rate up. You want to increase your body's use of oxygen and work your major muscle groups. And you could do this with walking, brisk walking, dancing, running, using a treadmill, getting on an exercise bike, or even better yet, go outside and get on a real bike trail. And this has been shown. An analysis by researchers at Harvard Medical School and 2 universities at China looked at 10 randomized controlled trials involving a total of 815 people. And these are all the people with pre-diabetes. And what this analysis showed is that aerobic exercise 3 to 4 times a week clearly and significantly improved insulin sensitivity, meaning it lowered insulin resistance. It improved blood glucose, which is reflective of insulin sensitivity. It improved body mass index, or BMI. BMI is just one measure of your overall metabolic health. It's still useful. Now there's about BRI, body roundness index, but this study actually looked at improved body mass index for metabolic health, and actually exercise had a benefit. All right. Now, the second thing you can do to reverse prediabetes is cut out all of your ultra-processed foods and sodas. Now, this really refers to junk food and soft drinks, which a lot of people consume, all right? And not only do they consume it, they consume a lot of it. So my guess is that regardless of your health, you might have consumed one of these foods, ultra-processed foods, or a soda every now and then, maybe more often, and maybe recently. But if you want to reverse prediabetes, it's time to cut them out completely. Now, let me explain to you how all this works. In addition to all the empty calories that junk food, ultra-processed foods deliver to your body, empty calories means you get the sugar, you get the calories, but you don't get any of the polyphenols, you don't get any dietary fiber, you don't get any of those other good stuff that's in whole plant-based foods. What ultra-processed foods deliver are chemical preservatives and artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, and sometimes artificial sweeteners that damage your gut microbiome. That's your healthy gut bacteria. And your healthy gut bacteria is really important for insulin sensitivity. In fact, it streamlines your glucose efficiency, how well your body is able to, your metabolism is able to bring blood glucose from your bloodstream into your body through insulin. Ultra-processed foods can damage your gut microbiome. And if that function is damaged, then you're not going to be as insulin sensitive. You're going to become insulin resistant. All right. Your blood glucose is going to rise, and then your body's going to make more insulin to try to chase it down. It's still not going to work. All right. So harming your gut microbiome is bad. Ultra-processed foods and sodas and diet sodas can also damage your gut microbiome. So you don't want to do this. If you want to reverse this problem, stop eating ultra-processed foods and stop drinking soda and other sugar-sweetened beverages, and stop artificially sweetened beverages and foods as well. All right. So what's an ultra-processed food? You know, this has been talked about so often now, but I can tell you from my perspective, it's basically food made in a factory with a huge number of ingredients and lots of chemicals added that you can't pronounce and probably don't know what they do. The easier explanation is, if your grandmother wouldn't recognize the ingredients as food, it's probably ultra-processed. All right, so just avoid those. Cut those down, cut those out. Very important if you want to actually reverse prediabetes. Here's the third thing you can do. Switch to a predominantly plant-based diet. Now, how does this work? Plant-based diets, which include fruits and vegetables and nuts and legumes and seeds, healthy oils that come from plants, and herbs and spices, these are the elements of what we know for sure are the healthiest dietary patterns in the world. That's a traditional Mediterranean diet and the traditional Asian diets. And part of the reason their diet is so healthy and the traditional diets actually lower the risk of prediabetes is that plant-based foods are very rich in polyphenols and dietary fiber. all right? And the bioactives, for example, that are in many of these plant-based foods, chlorogenic acid, lycopene, ellagic acid, sulforaphanes, there's many, many more. All of these bioactives from plant-based foods can lower inflammation. They can burn down excess harmful body fat, which then improves your insulin sensitivity. It shrinks your waist circumference, all right? So you can tighten your belt another notch or two, all right? And it actually gets rid of excess harmful body fat and improves overall metabolism, right? So what's not to like? Well, look, if you actually think about traditional Asian and traditional Mediterranean recipes, they're all delicious, right? I dare you to go to a Mediterranean restaurant, open up the menu, and not find something that you think is going to taste good. Same thing in an Asian restaurant that serves traditional food. You're going to find a lot of veggies. You're going to find plant-based foods that are there that are good for health. So eating these foods that contain these bioactives are not only delicious, but they should be part of a program to reverse prediabetes naturally. All right. What's the fourth thing you can actually do to reverse prediabetes? Well, you want to decrease your calorie consumption substantially. Let me tell you how this works. When you actually eat food, you are actually eating the substances that give your body fuel. All right. And your metabolism has to burn that fuel to do everything, just to be able to breathe, to be able to stay alive. And certainly if you're going for a walk, if you're running through an airport to try to catch your plane, if you are exercising, you need even more fuel. So fuel is really important. Now, our food gives us the calories. That is our fuel that our body, our metabolism stores in our muscles, and anything else gets stored in our fuel tanks so we can draw down on it like a car with a fuel tank for energy. All right, gasoline for a car, carbohydrates and food, really for our blood sugar, actually for our body's fuel tanks. And when you actually keep on filling up your fuel tank, that's overconsumption of food, all right, which is very common. Don't only pile up your plate for first, but then you go back for seconds, maybe even thirds. Now you're really talking about overconsumption, right? When you're consuming foods, you're actually loading your metabolism, loading some of the energy into fat cells. Your fat cell can expand 3 times in its size. You keep on eating, you got to keep on storing that extra energy into the fuel tank. It's like going to a gas station and keeping the pump going, all right? Well, your car only has one fuel tank and it's rigid. Our body, when it stores fuel through our food, it stores in our fat, and our fat cells can stretch pretty big, 3 times. So if you keep on eating, it'll actually fill up another fat cell 3 times. And if you keep on eating, fill up another one, another 3 times. Oh, you're still eating and we're running out of fat cells? Let's go ahead using stem cells and make a new fat cell and fill that one up too. And so on and so on and so forth. So you can see by over-consuming food, calories, you're going to actually fill up more and more fat cells as your fuel tanks. And now you're actually going to pile up the fat. The fat's going to expand. And when it expands, it becomes inflammatory, all right, especially the visceral fat. And when visceral fat, which is inside your belly, viscera, when visceral fat expands, it actually becomes inflammatory, and that inflammatory state leaks out into your body, but it also disrupts the hormones produced by your fat naturally to be able to actually bring down blood glucose. So there's a fat hormone called adiponectin. Adiponectin actually collaborates, works hand in hand with insulin to be able to actually produce that insulin sensitivity, so your glucose, your blood glucose gets into your cells. If you mess up that adiponectin, which you will do if your fat becomes inflamed, just derails that hormone, all right? Now your insulin is not going to work as well, so you're becoming insulin insensitive. That's prediabetes, all right? So if you want to actually reverse prediabetes, what you want to do is burn down some of those extra fuel tanks, all right? But you also want to cut down your caloric consumption substantially. Don't keep on filling up those fuel tanks day after day, week after week, month in and month out. You keep on piling up fuel tanks. Think about what would happen if you went to the gas station and you did much more than fill up your car for one trip, but you brought jerry cans of gasoline in and you kept on filling those up and storing them in your garage and fill up 2 more, stored in your garage. think about it. You're going to actually have a ton of fuel in your garage. And eventually it's going to become a dangerous, toxic, flammable mess, a hazard. And that's exactly what happens when you overconsume. It moves you towards prediabetes, insulin insensitivity. All right, so you don't want to be doing that. All right, the fifth thing you could do to actually reverse prediabetes is to lengthen your natural fasting state. So many of you will have heard about intermittent fasting. What I want to tell you is that it's the most natural thing, intermittent fasting. It's not just a fad or a trend. It's something that we all do all the time throughout our entire lives. And here's why. Fasting is simply the act of not eating, or the state of not eating. When you're fasting, your metabolism switches into gears like a Ferrari, like a race car, switching gears. And it switches gear from fat storing mode, which is what's happening when you're eating during the day, right? Your body needs to be prepared to store that energy. But when you go into a fasting state, you're not eating for a long enough period of time, your body goes, oh, let's switch gears. And instead of storing fat, guess what it does? It burns fat down, all right? So the fat burning part of fasting is a key part of intermittent fasting, right? So when do you do this? When's the most natural time to do intermittent fasting? Well, take advantage of the fact that when you're sleeping, right? We all go to sleep at night. And if you're sleeping for 8 hours, which is a good, healthy amount of sleep, guess what? You're not eating for a long enough period of time where your body switches gears into that Ferrari mode, okay? And now you go to fat burning. So while you're sleeping, you're actually burning fat. You're not exercising, you're burning fat. Interesting thing, right? Hey there, check this out. I've got a guide for you. It's about 3 foods to fight diabetes, and it's free. In the guide, I share simple, easy to use ingredients that you can add to your meals starting today. These are the foods that I eat myself, and they're packed with healthy bioactives that support your metabolism and help prevent insulin resistance. My guide is yours right now, free in the caption below. All you've got to do is click the link below the video. Now, let's get back to the other video. Okay, now, if you want to extend your fat burning time, you extend your fasting time. It's a really powerful but light lift way of actually doing this, all right? And let me actually tell you how to actually extend your natural fasting time. So I'm going to give you some hypotheticals, but just follow with me here. In your own case, it might be a little bit different in terms of the timing. So I'm going to say that most people eat dinner at 7 o'clock. And let's say that you spend an hour for dinner, which I think is pretty typical in many parts of the world. I know there are places that eat 3-hour dinners, but I'm saying most people eat dinner in the course of an hour. And then you might go to bed at 11 o'clock. All right. Maybe you go to bed a little later, maybe a little earlier, but let's, for the sake of this point, let's say you go to bed at 11 o'clock. Now, from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning, that is 8 hours of sleeping time. When you're sleeping, you're not eating. When you're not eating, you're fasting. So when you're sleeping from 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that 8-hour window is fasting. The Ferrari switches into gears and you're burning fat during that entire time. Remember, this actually happens when your insulin levels go down because you're not eating. All right, that's the trigger for it. So how do you actually improve that and lengthen that period? Well, it's pretty simple. Don't eat after dinner. All right, so 7 o'clock, you eat dinner, you're done at 8 o'clock, you put your dishes in the sink, and rather than take some snacks with you or sit down and nosh on something all evening while you're doing something else, all right, or wait, grab a midnight snack or eat a late dessert, don't do that. When you are actually finished eating dinner, put your dishes in the sink, that's it, you're done for the day. You're not going to eat again until the next day. Now, what's happened is that if you start dinner at 7, finish dinner at 8, put your dishes away at 8, go to bed at 11. Now, when you don't eat for those 3 hours, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, you've gained 3 more hours of fasting time in your window. Now, remember, that's 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock is 3 hours. Okay, now you're fasting, okay? And you're starting to burn down extra fuel. From 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock, because you should be sleeping 8 hours, that's a good period of time for overall health. So that's 3 hours from 8 to 11 and then 8 hours from 11 to 7. Now you get up in the morning. During this whole time, your body's burning down body fat. You get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and do what I do. Take your time getting ready. You're going to take a shower. You're going to get ready at the sink. You're going to get dressed. Take your time. You're not in a rush. All right. If you want to think about health, you don't want to rush your health. You want to be deliberate, be mindful, be present. All right. And then after you're done, don't do what your mom told you, which is to roll down into the kitchen and eat a wolf down some breakfast so you can get on the school bus and don't be late. But what I do is take an hour after you're ready, after you get dressed, before you eat anything. All right. So what that means is that for me, I go out for a brief walk. I go read a book. I sit down and read a book. You could exercise, distract yourself, do something else. Even if you check your emails, before long, an hour is going to be up. All right. Then you can sit down for breakfast. So let's take a look at this now. 8 o'clock the night before, you put your dishes away. Now you're not going to eat again. 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, that's 3 hours. Add that from 11 o'clock to 7 hours. That is 8 hours. Now we're talking about 11 hours. Okay, 11 hours. Now you've just added another hour because you're taking your time before eating breakfast. That's 12 hours. 12 hours is half the day. And if you extend your fasting in the way I just told you, from the time you put your dishes away, and you're able to fast for 12 hours of the day, you are spending 50% of your existence, 50% of your day, 12 hours, 12 out of 24, actually in fat burning mode. This is one way that you can actually burn down that extra visceral fat, lower the inflammation. You can also then allow your adiponectin in your fat, for example, to collaborate with insulin, and you'll start to regain insulin sensitivity again. All right. It's kind of complicated, actually, but the actions you need to take are pretty simple. All right. That's what I would actually recommend. So let's sum this up again. Getting physically active will actually improve your insulin sensitivity to help reverse prediabetes. Cutting down your ultra-processed foods and sodas, including diet sodas, will prevent your metabolism from being derailed because you're damaging your gut microbiome. Eating a predominantly plant-based diet is going to introduce all kinds of metabolically active, fat-burning polyphenols and dietary fiber that activates your gut microbiome, the healthy bacteria, that then improves your insulin sensitivity, lowers your blood lipids, your cholesterol, harmful cholesterol goes down, and activates your body's health defenses. So you're overall healthier metabolically and otherwise. And this is actually the start to be able to get on the right track to reverse your prediabetes. The fourth thing we talked about is actually decreasing your caloric take substantially. All right. Less food, less fuel, less overwhelming, less your metabolism, less inflammation. All right. So how I suggest decreasing your calories substantially is, number one, don't fill up your whole plate. All right. Take only 2/3 of what you would normally take. Leave a third behind. All right. Somebody else will eat it. Don't worry. And then what you want to do is don't feel like you have to finish the plate, and do not go back for seconds. All right. Don't go back for seconds and quit the Clean Plate Club. These are some simple ways to actually cut down your caloric consumption substantially. Remember, calories are what we call our fuel. Like in a car, they're called gallons, right? Or liters, depending on where you live. But in your body, it's called calories. That's just the name of the currency, the value of it. All comes from food, and it's all energy. And finally, we can increase your natural fasting period. And remember, when you're fasting, your body is shifting into gears to burn down extra harmful body fat, which then makes your body more normal, more insulin sensitive. And fasting also helps your gut microbiome reboot itself. This is something that's quite amazing. And so when your gut microbiome resets itself, it can actually go to work to helping to protect and improve your insulin sensitivity. So these are just some really simple ways that you can actually take control of prediabetes to reverse it. Now, obviously, if you got prediabetes, you should see your doctor. You need a full physical and complete evaluation of your body. And your doctor should check your blood tests to make sure there are no other reasons, no other medical conditions, it could be quite serious, that are going on that could contribute to your pre-diabetic state. All right. I hope you learned something new from this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Dr. Lee out. Hi there. If you enjoyed watching this video, I know you'll love the next one. Stay here and check it out, and I'll see you there.